So the battle lines are drawn. It's between the people of Kenya and legacy politicians. And the police have chosen a side to stand with legacy politicians. But their time is coming. That is something we must keep reminding them. That in this day and time, we are recording and documenting every atrocity being committed to the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya shall call them to account. And accounting will happen when they stand on the dock to answer for these atrocities. Even in their old age, in their retirement. But that is not even to say it will wait that long. It is coming soon. Because one term is now half term. And the Kenyan people will have their say. And they will have their way while at it. I don't know anybody who organized the demonstration on Saba Saba. It is everybody in their own space decided I'm not going to work. I'm going out on the streets to speak. So when you say, some people are saying that they've lost the organizers, who are these organizers? There is no organizer. It's the Kenyan people in their mass. And sovereignty in Article 1 vests in the people of Kenya. So the sovereign cannot be told what to do. He's the sovereign. And the fact that the police are responding this way does not mean the police will succeed. There's no difference between what we witnessed yesterday and what we witnessed in 1990, Saba Saba. It's the same. Now where we've reached, the moment the police killed the first person in these demonstrations last year, they were defining their path of exit with their legacy politician supporters. It doesn't mean that the more they kill, that now they'll succeed. No. It is now a path to nothing. They are playing a zero-sum game that only guarantees one outcome. There's one guaranteed outcome. They shall not succeed. They shall fail.
But what is the endgame here? Must we lose more lives?
The endgame has been said by the Kenyan people. They are tired of legacy politicians led by William Ruto. That is the endgame. And that endgame, I'm not the one who defined it. It's the Kenyan people who have defined it. So the legacy politicians led by William Ruto must go. They must go. And going, they will go.
Very good day to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Candid Talk here on Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. My name is Evan Sokinyi, and I'm joined here by my resident guest, Wakili Willie Sotino. In case you're watching us for the first time, kindly subscribe to our channel here so that you will be able to get every episode of all that we are doing on this channel. We have Jerel Kabiro as well as Richard Mwenja, all are part of this family. If you're meeting Wakili for the first time, of course, he is a constitutional lawyer as well as the deputy party leader of Safina Party. Wakili, how are you?
Fine, thank you. Yes.
How is your progress in terms of preparation for the coming general elections?
The Kenyan people are prepared. In fact, they've decided one term is too long. It is half term. So even as a Safina Party, we must be ready to provide to them an alternative leadership. And we are very clear. The issue still remains the economy. No amount of conclaves or no number of handshakes or broad-based we deal with this issue. The issue is very simple. Let the Kenyan people now discuss the question of the economy and how to guarantee dignity to every Kenyan. Without that, we are wasting our time.
Welcome to the Candid Talk. I want us to quickly analyze and make our viewers understand what actually happened on Saba Saba with all these things happening here. You see, first of all, the Nairobi city was some sort of a ghost town during this particular date, because you remember the police decided to block every entry point to the city. And then in as much as that happened, we still witnessed loss of life, destruction of property, and all those things that are associated with this. Of course, it's indeed true that the country is at crossroads. First of all, what do you make of the events?
The first and foremost, what we must say is that the police are being used by legacy politicians to undermine our constitution. The right to peaceably unarmed to demonstrate is in the constitution. They blocked the CBD. What were they doing in the residential areas? Why were they shooting in people's homes? If the issue was that the demonstration was going to take place in the CBD, why did they appear in people's homes? To interfere with the ordinary course of life today. It's the police being used by legacy politicians. And many Kenyans reported gunshot wounds and even gunshots from fragments landing in their homes. Who was demonstrating in their home that you can warrant that kind of deployment of force? What about that STU unit that was moving around with Subarus, shooting ammunition in people's homes? So it's legacy politicians trying to intimidate Kenyans. So the battle lines are drawn. So between the people of Kenya and legacy politicians. And the police have chosen a side to stand with legacy politicians. But their time is coming. That is something we must keep reminding them. That in this day and time, we are recording and documenting every atrocity being committed to the people of Kenya. And the people of Kenya shall call them to account. And accounting will happen when they stand on the dock to answer for these atrocities. Even in their old age, in their retirement. But that is not even to say it will wait that long. It is coming soon. Because one term is now half term. And the Kenyan people will have their say. And they will have their way while at it.
Do you think the Saba Saba, the recent one, of course, we had a conversation previously, and we thought that it would be a different Saba Saba, and of course it was different. Do you think that the kind of stuff that happened yesterday simply tells us that we are moving away from the really intended purpose of that particular day?
No. The real intention of Saba Saba is about a people's struggle. People demanding for dignity, for better life for them. That is what Saba Saba was about even in the 1990s. So even yesterday, it was just still about that. So the real purpose of Saba Saba has all been lost. It is when people are saying how you are governing us does not respond to our needs. That is the message. And that was the message that was communicated yesterday in the protest. And a protest is about sending a message. You don't even have to appear. You can even have a silent protest, even stay at home. It's a protest. And to the extent that the CBD was ghost town yesterday, that shows the success of that protest. People staying at home and not appearing in the CBD and sending a message. Because the question then in everybody's mind is, why was the CBD deserted? It was because the people are dissatisfied. The people are angry. They are saying how you are governing us does not accord to our wishes. Life has become unbearable. The economy is choking us. So we are sending a message that we disapprove. And that message was loud and clear. The response of legacy politicians to the protest is to send goons and policemen in civilian in some instances to kill. And they killed almost 19 Kenyans yesterday. The numbers may be high.
What does a successful protest look like for
A successful protest simply means that the message of the protest is loudly heard and received by everybody. Look at the dailies today. What's on top of the mind of everybody? What is everybody discussing? Everybody is discussing the events of yesterday.
Definitely.
That is the success of the protest. But while at it, we must also condemn the legacy politicians and the police who are deployed to kill people in their residences. Not a single person was killed in the CBD. All the deaths recorded are recorded in residential areas. Who are there with guns? Police. Not a single recorded death in the hands of a civilian. So, the people have had their say. The police decided to further again disobey the constitution and commit acts of atrocities against the people by killing them in their residential areas. That we must condemn and demand for accountability.
What do you make of the presence of that particular, I don't know whether to call it special rapid response unit that was dispatched? And we saw, of course, the Subarus down there. Do you think that we are getting back to that particular era?
We are not getting back. We are there. We've always been there. That has been the modus operandi of William Ruto and his Cabral.
Okay.
They set up a killer unit, give them Subaru vehicles and guns to go and shoot aimlessly and kill civilians. So we are there. And that's why I say there must be accountability, even those OCSs of those respective areas. When the dust settles, the OCS is in charge of every unit of a police unit operating in his jurisdiction. Number one on the dock will be the officer in charge of the police stations in those jurisdictions where the deaths have occurred. They hold command responsibility. If they cannot bring these black Subarus and their occupants to court, they are the ones who will be charged under the doctrine of command responsibility. The DCI, I mean, he bears ultimate responsibility. The IG Kanja bears responsibility. They are the ones who hold command responsibility over these units. And failure to prosecute the perpetrators, they will be charged under the doctrine of command responsibility. I can say it here on live. IG Kanja and DCI Amin, at the end of the day, they are defining their destiny. They are defining their future. They are laying the roadmap to how they will be remembered. And it will all end up in them answering for the killings that we've witnessed. That is now part of their mark. Where we are now, we are not discussing about perpetuating a regime. Everybody is defining their future.
Okay.
And they're defining their future to be one where they must be called to account. And calling to account will mean being arraigned in court. In this particular instance, I can even dare say, even if they die before that time comes, they will be tried posthumously and convicted.
We are talking of a ghost town, but at the same time we are seeing, of course, whatever happened at that time where parliament buildings as well as the road leading to State House were actually cordoned off, and this time round the police successfully managed to keep people off these particular areas. In the first place, make me understand it, is it in order for the CAs in charge of public service to actually tell us a day before that all public servants must report to work, failure to which he would need some sort of show cause letters? And then the police decide to do what they did, and even without any particular legislation or law being observed, and they decide to do all these things. Is it really in order for us to
start with, I've always told you to stop listening to legacy politicians. The CS of public service does not have any disciplinary control over any public officer. Who is he in the scheme of things? He has no disciplinary powers over any public officer, any civil servant. So where does he get the powers to say that if anybody doesn't report to work, they will initiate proceedings against them? He doesn't have. Tell him to his face.
And why was he demanding for the threatening that there would be show cause letters?
He doesn't have any disciplinary control over anybody in the public service. He's a flower girl. That is who he is. All employees of the public service are under the Public Service Commission, not the CS. And the Public Service Commission is an independent constitutional commission. Tell these legacy politicians the truth. They have some perceived powers. They have another one sitting there as head of public service. Where in the law is that position? That's an unconstitutional office.
What is
there is no statutory basis for that office. There is no law establishing that office. It's illegal.
What is the role of CS Ruku, if you look at it?
Purely policy. He's just a purely policy representative of the public service and cabinet. That's all. He has no disciplinary control over the public service and its workers. He does not. Let him fire one tomorrow, then we meet on the streets. Let him even issue a social cause letter under his name. He can't. Don't pamper these legacy politicians. They assume powers they don't have. He doesn't have it, and we must keep reminding him. In the scheme of things, the CS public service is just a policy representative of issues of public service in cabinet, but has no disciplinary control over even the lowest of all in the public service. He cannot fire anybody. The power to fire, to hire and to fire rests in the Public Service Commission, not him. That's the truth. He cannot do anything about it. So his directive was illegal in the first place. He has no say whether people report or not report. That is not his duty. We will expect the chairperson of the Public Service Commission to speak on that question, not him.
Now, talk to us about the blocking of course, of all these roads here. At the same time, we are looking at this. Are the police actually in order to do this? Because it seems like the police are now deciding to you where you are supposed to protest. And
that is an infringement of the right to freedom of movement. We have in the Constitution our right to freedom of movement. Even the right to assembly. Those are rights in the Constitution. The police are not a superintendent of our Bill of Rights. In fact, the rights that we enjoy in the Constitution, including the right to peaceably and armed to demonstrate, is not granted by the state. It's a right that the Kenyan people have given unto themselves in their Constitution. What you witness as those barricades are just legacy politicians who are scared of the people. They don't respect the Constitution. They have no say on in any manner in which the constitutional rights are to be enjoyed. So all those were illegal acts. In fact, there's a court order that even stopped had already told the police, you have no power to erect barricades on our public roads. But they're disobeying even that court order. So There are people who are not operating within the ambit of the rule of law. So when the police stop operating within the ambit of the rule of law, who are they? Are they police anymore? Do you recognize them as a law enforcement unit? No. Those are now rogues. They are now thugs in uniform who've taken over parts of the city and the country to erect their barricades and to harass civilians in violation of the constitution and the rule of law.
With the increasing number of deaths and casualties that we're witnessing from these particular demonstrations day in, day out, whenever they are organized, people are talking, there are certain people who believe that perhaps the demonstrations and those who are organizing them have actually lost cause, and therefore we need a total change. Do you believe so?
You know, I don't know who organized these demonstrations. I'm surprised you're saying there are people who organize them. I don't know. It is every Kenyan in their own right to organize themselves to demonstrate, which is a right in the constitution. That right is in our constitution. The right to demonstrate is in our constitution. I don't know anybody who organized the demonstration on Saba Saba. It is everybody in their own space decided, I'm not going to work. I'm going out on the streets to speak. So when you say, some people are saying that they've lost the organizers, who are these organizers? There is no organizer. It's the Kenyan people in their mass. And sovereignty in Article 1 vests in the people of Kenya. So the sovereign cannot be told what to do. He's the sovereign. And the fact that the police are responding this way does not mean the police will succeed. There's no difference between what we witnessed yesterday and what we witnessed in 1990, Saba Saba. It's the same. In 1990, the clamor was for multipartyism. Did they achieve the objective? They did. What makes you think the police who failed in 1990 will succeed in 2025? They will not. In fact, in 1990, the information space was even restricted. Now we have more in terms of access to information. It's more open. We are more enlightened today than they were in 1990. The numbers are more this year than they were in 1990. So if they failed in 1990, what are the odds that they can succeed now? They can't. Now where we've reached, the moment the police killed the first person in these demonstrations last year, they were defining their path of exit with their legacy politician supporters. It doesn't mean that the more they kill, that now they'll succeed. No. It is now a path to nothing. They are playing a zero-sum game that only guarantees one outcome. There's one guaranteed outcome. They shall not succeed. They shall fail.
But what is the end game here? Must we lose more lives?
The end game has been said by the Kenyan people. They are tired of legacy politicians led by William Ruto. That is the end game. And that end game, I'm not the one who defined it. It's the Kenyan people who have defined it. So the legacy politicians led by William Ruto must go. They must go. And going, they will go.
Now, seemingly with the kind of simmering relationship between the police and the government and the citizens at large here, especially with the young people, Raila Odinga is saying that, look, let's come together and have some sort of an intergenerational, what he calls intergenerational conclave, some sort of a dialogue so that we see the way forward. And he talks about proceeds of that particular dialogue being subjected to a referendum and all that manner of stuff. I mean, how much conversation or how much dialogue must we have for us to get the way forward?
To the extent that he has said a referendum which connotes an election, he's almost getting there, but he's not yet there. The Kenyan people are walking in their pockets with their sovereignty. Nobody recognizes those legacy politicians as their representatives. We must have a process where the Kenyan people will choose, will donate back their sovereign power. I told you this last year, and I'll repeat it. These things will not end until the day the Kenyan people who are walking in on the streets with their sovereignty donate part of that sovereignty back to an elected representative. So to the extent he mentions referendum, recognize that this process will only lead to an election, he's halfway there. But he needs to also understand there is no future with William Ruto and the Kenyan people. As I told you, when you killed the first person, you are defining your exit. Because the people you've killed now, the number is now approaching 100, cannot be brought back to life. How do you make peace with a killer? To continue. It can't. It only means now is a point of departure. And the terms of that departure. So if the Kenyan people are to have any dialogue or a conclave, as proposed by Raila Odinga, that dialogue should only have what we call the preconditions before any talks. And one of those preconditions should be William Ruto saying, since he asked the question, how do you want me to go? Saying, here is my resignation letter. I have resigned from the position of president, effective this date. In between today and that date of leaving, let's have a conversation to discuss the terms of the exit and the roadmap for you to have a new leadership. That's the only conversation that the Kenyan people can have with William Ruto.
So you're talking about a conversation on how he can exit.
That is the only conversation that will make sense to the people of Kenya. You've killed over 100. What else are you discussing with someone who has killed over 100?
Okay.
The 100 who you've killed cannot be relived. They are gone.
So the young people are here, assuming the president is here, coming on this particular table, even if it's a conversation with blood on his hands. How easy will it be for the young people actually to engage with him and understand him better?
That is why I've told you a conversation should start with, I am resigning effective this date. We're having a conversation to discuss the roadmap to a new leadership.
Okay.
An election roadmap, kind of. That's the only conversation that the people of Kenya can have with William Ruto. Anything short of that, there'll be no conversation. The last conclave we had, we got Pope.
Okay.
I don't think the Pope is still alive and active. We don't need a conclave to elect a new Pope when the Pope is still alive. We only need William Ruto to resign and let the Kenyan people choose their leader.
Doesn't that then give credence to what the government is saying, that those who are on the streets are in need of a regime change, and that is why they are there?
Is there a problem with the regime change? Who is the sovereign? It's the people on the street. It's the Kenyan people who are the sovereign. If the sovereign has recalled his donated sovereign power, what is wrong with that? People in leadership must understand this thing. That when you are elected to an office, it's not your office. It's the people's office. The people still remains the sovereign.
Okay.
And when they recall their mandate, you lack legitimacy. The most you should do is to find a way in which you can peacefully hand over back that sovereignty, that mandate to the people to choose whoever they want.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Are you prepared for the consequences of that particular regime change? Because there would also be retaliation from the other side.
What retaliation?
From, of course, from the supporters of
The retaliation is on the ballot. That's the retaliation that you expect.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I've said it should lead to a ballot, a process that leads to a ballot. People voting for leadership that they want. And the country will move forward.
Why shouldn't we then wait for 2027?
But the sovereign, it is the sovereign who has spoken.
Okay.
Who are you to challenge the sovereign? The voice of the people is the voice of God. Article 1, all sovereign power vests in the people of Kenya. If the people, the sovereign, have recalled their mandate, why must you wait?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, why must we wait? That is what Wakili says here. Weigh in and tell us what you think about what is actually taking place in the country with Kenya at crossroads. We are asking what's the way out of this particular problem that we are in. Wakili here is saying that we must go back to the ballot and bring in a new regime. Do you think that would solve all our problems that we have currently? Tell us. Allow me to stop for now till we have this conversation again. Have yourself a lovely day. My name is Evans Okinyi.